So, to describe the layout of my aunt's house, which used to be my grandfather's house before he passed away, it is a house that is made of an older section and a newer section. Both are a slim rectangular shape, not that big, but it's big for Filipino standards, I guess. I'll describe the newer part first and then the older part. So, the older part, which is the first part, I'll just call the kitchen. That's where the table is, like the kitchen table, the kitchenry stuff. Then there is the old front wall, outward facing windows that now look into the first floor of the new extension, which is the living room. This is going to get confusing, a little convoluted, but hopefully it's okay. The living room used to be fenced in courtyard. That is now a living room. In the living room, if you're facing from the door of the old place, the kitchen, on the right side, there's an L-shaped staircase. It's very small and narrow, like most things in the Philippines. You go up the L-shaped staircase. Above the staircase is a window, and farther in is another. The window above the staircase is what I will call the Jesus room. There is nothing in the Jesus room besides a crucified Jesus in a glass case that takes up, God, like an eighth of the room. It's pretty big. If you're looking outside the window, the Jesus statue is on the left side, the farthest window, deeper into what I will call the sleeping room. I guess a bedroom. It's where my two cousins and brother sleep. If you look through the window, that is the master bedroom. That is like less haunted. It just has a bed and a bunch of other junk in there. If you go from the sleeping room downstairs to the living room, if you're just coming off from the L-shaped staircase, you can look through a window. And next to that window is the outside door. Leads into an alleyway, leads onto the main street. If you go back into the kitchen, you can go up a narrow staircase into the old hallway. Just a bunch of stuff in there, cluttered, whatever. That's the layout. We come back from the mall like usual. We ate at, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher the hell out of this name. I don't even know if it's pronounced this way, but I'm just going to put some American flavor onto it. It's a restaurant. This is pointless, but it's a restaurant. It's in a Saal. Hopefully I pronounced that right. It's the reason why we go there all the time. Infinite rice, free refills on rice and fish soup. Everybody likes it there because it's inexpensive. You come back from that, put our leftovers away and whatever little trinket that I bought. I go upstairs to the sleeping room. I put my stuff away next to my bed and I go to brush my teeth. But when I'm rounding the stairs, I can feel someone looking through the glass paned window from the Jesus room. And I get this strange, eerie feeling, like this heavy pressure. Not a malevolent or evil, not an inherently good, more so of a watchful eye, a neutral one at that. And my ground rule stated in my last ghost video, if you don't acknowledge them, they will go away. So I did just that. I didn't look into the window. I just felt it following me from the Jesus room to the master bedroom. Like it phased through the little wall going into the master bedroom, looking through the window. Put my stuff up, brush my teeth, and when I turn around, obviously, curiosity, I glanced into the master bedroom. Nothing there. Eerily dark as usual. The master bedroom doesn't have any windows besides the one looking into the sleeping room. So, it's dark, whatever. When I'm getting closer to go downstairs, my eye just fixates, trying to look through the slightly frosted glass shutters that are semi-closed. Going down the stairs, my head bobs downwards. Time freezes. My glance turned into me fully looking into the Jesus room, back in time. The Jesus statue wasn't there. It looked bright. It looked promising. It looked comforting. In that room, there was a green plastic lawn chair pushed up in the corner to where it looked out into the courtyard where the sleeping room is now built, and also another window that looked out to the other alleyway. The Jesus room is the only place that had another window. So if you're going down the staircase in the sleeping room, that window would be in front of you if you were in the Jesus room, And there was a person sitting in the green lawn chair at the corner. It's very hard to describe because it was like a black silhouette, but also imposed onto it. It was like 3 or 2 imposed images or memories or visions or something that had a little bit of moonlight shining into that room, but it was like still pretty dark. A pristine memory, a silhouette sitting in a green plastic lawn chair. And there was another imposed image on that silhouette that I would like to say was my grandpa, but to be honest, it was kind of, well, wasn't kind of, it was very blurred. A projector on a non-flat surface. You know what I mean? Like the picture and the projection wrapped around the silhouette, but it wasn't perfect. It was fuzzy, hazy, but in some instances, it was crystal clear. That moment in time felt like forever. Going down the stairs, my eyes caught that image, that 3 superimposed images all together. After like a second, I took another step and I couldn't see into the Jesus room anymore. I paused and I was like, what the hell was that? I take a step back and I look into the room, nothing. The door that went into the hallway, pitch black. The door was open. I was like, okay, I'm not going to stare into the pitch black doorway and try to pick something out because I don't want to. So I walked downstairs into the living room. I don't remember who was in there. I think the whole family was in there besides 1 or 2, maybe heating up some leftovers. I talked to Car Guy, Healer, and my brother. We all start talking about ghosts. My aunt overhears this, and in decent English, she says she doesn't like ghosts, scary or whatever. She leaves. I guess my mom's in the kitchen, or she already left before it started. Start talking about ghosts and always feeling watched through the old windows. They all say the same thing. Every time you're up there, especially at night, you feel like a heavy feeling of being watched. They say it's our late grandfather. And it's not malicious. He's just watching over the house. He doesn't want bad things to happen. He wants to make sure everything is going copacetic, it's going swimmingly, all that. Healer says something in Tagalog and he takes an interest in it. And we all start sharing our little experiences upstairs or in general. I start talking about the lady in white, which is something that is a very long story. But in short, it is something I can't explain that's followed me throughout my whole life. But before 2023, if I even said the lady in white, I would get dread, just absolute gnashing dread, pure, unadulterated fear. And I would see her in my mind's eye or imagination, whatever you'd like to prefer, coming towards me. She would always enter through a doorway, either the front or the back. And it was superimposed. It was pressed in front of my own vision where I would see her first or third person from behind her coming towards me. I would hear her speak. I would hear her say something like calling my name or something, but without noise, if that made sense. Like in the first story, I said, if I would listen closely to the woman humming, it wasn't actually coming from the outside world. It was coming right behind my ear. It was like that. It was a very audible sound, but it was in the tone of a whisper. Like I couldn't hear it, but I knew there was a sound to it. And if I focused on that sound, I could hear it, but it wasn't real. Does that make sense? That sounds absolutely not so but so insane, but that's how it was. After describing that whole mess, Car Guy translated healer, saying that might be a spirit. They go into detail, sensing and seeing that type of stuff. But because Car Guy doesn't really watch American stuff, like American horror shows or whatever, I had to give him words that he was trying to describe. So it was a weird telephone. Not even going into it. Healer says he wants to help Grandpa move on. So Healer says, I want to test and see if you're similar to me, if you're similar to Car Guy, to where even simply you can just feel people you cannot see. We go into the kitchen, still on the first floor. The kitchen table is located right under the stairs. At the table, me, Car Guy, and Healer. Car Guy is there to translate, and also he's very curious. We sit in a triangle formation, and I'm technically at the head. Healer is like at the head. He's giving or sharing his power to me so I can see better and kind of moving it in that triangle. Apparently, this ritual, I'll just call a seance, is a very old Filipino tradition that when the Spanish came, just as all their superstitious stuff, they converted it to Catholicism, or in my case, my family's case, Roman Catholic persuasion, I guess. What you do is you put your palms together, you'll wrap your fingers like you're making a finger gun. Your pointer and your middle rest on the other person's palm to feel their pulse. That is where you can feel electricity or power or energy that you're all sharing. But you got to make sure that there are no openings. So in the triangle, you have to hold hands with everybody. If there's an open end, it doesn't work. Don't know why. That's just how it is. Healer explains to me this, and throughout the whole process, I'm fucking up, very anxious, nervous. I don't know what to do. My voice is shaking. I just have this strange feeling. So you know where your ribs go up into your sternum and that little bump at the end of your sternum? So right there, it feels like this ball of light that's an empty white, bluish, or pulling in and also pushing out stuff from that little nib from your sternum and where your ribs meet, where that little void is. Thin light rays push outwards and you feel it in your shoulders, your head, your neck, kind of like a light that shines like 360. It just feels like a blast of constant emotion of like high strung, high stress, high this and that. I try to focus on the pulses that I can feel, I guess, moving along or whatever. Healer says to close my eyes, try to picture energy flowing. Don't really remember the process of it. That's essentially it. He asked me if I'm okay. I'm fine. A little nervous. He says, close your eyes, whatever. Once we do, he keeps asking me questions about myself, questions about how I feel and all that stuff. A lot of questions that was translated, and then I had to ask Healer questions, whole rigmarole of confusion. Once I got a little bit more settled down, he said, what do you feel? Told him that stuff. He said, now try to shift your focus from the kitchen table. Try to picture everything that you would see with your eyes open and try to shift it upwards. In your mind, you're looking normally and then you look up. But instead of looking up, you're just up there. You're upstairs in person looking around. So I try, and he says, what do you see? I say, I can barely picture the upstairs. It's basically pitch black. He says, do you see anything else? There are two balls of light, sort of oval shape. It's emitting sort of not really a bright light, but a contained light. The edges are shining like they would shine as you look directly into a flashlight, that type of light, but more oval. One is red and one is black and white, sort of flicking on and off, more so of a gray than anything else. Healer says, okay, focus on one. I focus on the red one. As I'm focusing on it, it starts to morph and change, sort of flicker, but not flicker out. Just change its normal, the size of a human oval. You know what I mean? I focus on it. It looks like it's getting closer. And then like a flashbang, bright, vibrant, like a nice velvet crimson red, gets super big in my face, keeps growing. In the middle, white expands more and more, and then it flashes like a flashbang. The red just take up the corners, flashbangs me, disappears into a wisp. I physically flinch a little bit. Healer immediately responded saying, you surprised the lady in the red dress. She didn't know someone would see her, and she didn't know I would see her or look at her. I'm like, oh, what do I do? He says, apologize, tell her why you were looking. In this sort of, I don't know how you would describe it. It was like a half prayer, a half conversation where I had to speak out loud. I'm sorry. I was trying to see what was upstairs and I saw you and I focused on you and blah, blah, blah. And he says, okay, you apologize. She's whatever. Now focus on the other one. What do you see? And I described the black and white, flickering, sort of grayish, human-shaped oval blob thing. Okay. Car guy said that's grandpa, but I don't know. I state who I am. Like, you remember me, grandpa? I'm, Jason, blah, blah, blah. Car guy says some stuff in Tagalog. and in English. Healer says some stuff in Tagalog and none in English, obviously. We sort of wrap things up for the most part. My mom at some point has come and sat next to me, and she kind of has this strange look on her face. More of like a grin, but not really. She's looking at me kind of sideways, but not in a bad way. Dismissive, I guess. I start talking to my mom. We start talking, and my auntie comes in. My mom's very dismissive about everything, and then there's a whole argument in Tagalog. My mom didn't want me to do the seance thing, but I did it anyways. And now she's arguing. I try to butt in and try to get someone to explain to me in English what's going on, why she's so dismissive, why is auntie so dismissive, why is this, that, and the like. Just goes on. My mom just shuts everything down and says, don't talk about it. Don't say anything. I don't like spirit stuff. It sort of goes downhill. My mom shuts it down. Everybody goes their own way. And I'm just sitting there thinking. I think of the lady in red because an image sort of flashes in my mind, trying to recount everything. And when that flashbang of white and red light goes, I kind of see a picture of a woman just a little bit instantly before that flashbang thing happened. It's kind of like a 3/4 view of her whole body. You know, she looks, as far as I could tell from a distance, that picture, that flash, she looked very attractive. After I pictured it, it kind of had like this wisp, like I was looking at her dress flowing, like she was spinning around in a circle, and thin, almost smoke-like red, glittery, whimsical, like fairy dust, smoky lines flittered around sort of in like a sheer dress. I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's kind of flowing like that, but it's kind of taking shape into a cylinder, and then it kind of becomes more solidified. And at the very tips of like the ends of that sort of like red, smoky lines and stuff, it kind of turns bright like fire. It kind of turns into more fire than smoke. Where the torso would be, the top of the dress, kind of flickers more into fire instead of like streaks. And then it turns into like kind of a wick, like a candle wick, like a light. And the bottom part continues to cylindrify, and it sort of stops. Each rotation turns more like thicker and thicker, and then it kind of turns into this red candle. And at the very top where the torso was, the lit wick, that fire glows bright and bright, but also the candle base glows bright. This thick, stout red candle is glowing bright. It's sort of taking over my mind. It's hard to see. I'm still at the kitchen table staring, and I'm like, man, this is like developing into my mind. I can see this stout red candle glowing bright, and it's like pushing from inside my head outward. You know, when you hold your finger in front of you and you move closer to like cross your eyes, you know what I mean? In that peripheral where your nose is kind of like a blurry glow. I would describe it so, where my brow line is, it's just a tad above it, still in the middle, a hair or two up from the bridge of where my nose starts, and it kind of just projects out. Where your brow bone is, there's kind of like a little, just a slight divot or ridge. That's where it's kind of like projecting out. And I couldn't get rid of it, and I couldn't understand why I'm seeing this bright candle. Like a blind man stumbling, I kind of fumble around, grab my sketchbook, and draw as best as I can what it kind of looks like. Afterwards, I draw that, and I'm kind of trying to figure it out. Like, why the hell am I seeing a candle? Car guy, he kind of comes back and says, you know, how you doing? Whatever. I explain the candle. He tells me in like the Catholic faith that you burn candles, and each candle has a color. Each color has a different meaning. When he's describing this, I'm now starting to see black metal candle rack where you burn stuff. There are a few candles lit, but they're sort of blurred and in the foreground. All the candles around the red candle, the red thick candle, is the focal point. Most, if not all around it, are burned out and varying degrees of melted. And he doesn't know the word for candle stand, like that sort of whatever. I still don't. I'm just calling candle stand. I get this sort of voice, a womanly voice in my own voice, but has sort of like this backing of a female tinge to it, like someone speaking into my head and I'm saying it in my head, but it's, oh my God, it sounds so stupid. But that's how it is, right? It's saying I need to burn this candle at a specific church with a saint. I asked car guy, hey, do you have a church with a candle stand? He says, yes, there's one nearby. Does it have a saint? He says, yes, it's the saint of, I don't know, it's like John or Peter or something. I need to take this red candle. Like, can I buy candles there? He says, yes, but they're only white. He says, can I burn red candles? A mistranslation or a confusion. He doesn't understand that I want to buy a candle there that's red and big. He says, those candles are expensive. You can buy them outside, but you can only buy white candles, blah, blah. So after I get it through to his head, what I want to do, he says, those candles are very expensive. Why do you want to buy a big candle? I said, well, if all this is true, the lady in red wants me to burn a red candle for her for forgiveness and stuff. He says, okay, I guess that makes sense, but it's expensive, blah, blah. A few days later, we go try to buy candles to go to the church, and there's no candles that's unscented. And in my head again, hear my own voice with sort of a light backing of a woman saying, don't buy scented. Car guy says it's fine to buy scented, but what, I don't know. At some point, probably like more than a week later, finally able to go to a church, which is a different church than what car guy was describing. Because when I went to that church, candle stands were different and the candles looked different and you couldn't buy any color. Turns out in the city of Manila, there is another church, which is one of the oldest churches, has a saint and has the exact candle stand. And next to the candle stands, there are wooden boxes that sort of look like bird stands, but you give donation, you get a candle, and you burn it. I brought the unscented candle that I finally was able to buy at this, I don't know, a church gift shop. When I put it on the candle stand, the image that I saw was, I don't know if it was exactly, but it was almost perfectly the same image that I saw. Big, thick red candle burning. All the other candles mostly extinguished in different states of melted. I prayed and said a prayer for the lady in red, saying, I hope you like this offering thing and all that stuff. After I finished, I lit the other candles because, I don't know, I just felt like I should. And that was that. Granted, I'm sure that I've left out parts or put parts before others, but that's the gist of it. Hopefully it makes sense. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. If you don't, you don't. If you want to nitpick it, sure, I don't care. And that's that. Good day, good night. And remember, don't go fuck yourself. All right, see you later.